Hey, I'm Fucci and welcome to Tiny Kitchen Big Taste. Today, perfection in the tiny kitchen. We're making the perfect steak. I don't know about you, but I have always wanted to be able to make one of those beautifully seasoned, perfectly cooked steakhouse steaks without having to pay those crazy steakhouse prices. Well, I set out to find the recipe for success, and practice makes perfect, because I have found a foolproof way to make a perfect steak at home. Okay is no longer good enough. It's time to raise the stakes. No, literally, we gotta raise the steak. We gotta cook this thing, so bring it. So what you're gonna need is your favorite cut of steak, avocado oil, salt, and pepper. That's it. You'll also need a baking sheet and baking rack, aluminum foil, a meat thermometer, tongs, and a cast iron grill pan or your backyard barbecue grill. I just love a good steak, and pretty much all my life I have not been making a good steak. It's been basically an exercise in randomness. I would always use a different cut, I would season it differently, and then just throw it on the barbecue and hope that I got the temperature right. Well, it never produced the results that I wanted. So I set out to find a consistent way to make the perfect steak every time, and I want to share that with you. Now, in order to do so, you've got to start with a really good cut of meat. So go to our website. I explained to you all the cuts that work great with this recipe. Today we're using a top sirloin, and I just love this cut because it's a little bit more affordable, but it's still going to give you a great steak. It's got that marbling of fat that will melt into the steak as it cooks, giving you some great taste. Now, to season it, couldn't be easier. Salt, pepper, and thyme. Now we're gonna start by putting a healthy portion of salt on top of our steak. Now don't worry about putting too much. This is gonna soak into the meat and give it some really good flavor. Next, I'm gonna sprinkle it with some pepper. And then we'll do the same on the other side. Now I'm gonna place our steak onto our baking rack that I've placed over our baking sheet. So we're gonna pop this in the fridge for about 8 hours. Now you can do it for less time, but 8 hours is a great amount of time to get a really flavorful steak. You could actually do it overnight if you want. But what's gonna happen during that time is the salt is gonna pull the moisture out of the steak, bring it to the surface, it'll mix with that salt, and then it's gonna melt back into the steak to distribute that flavor throughout the meat. The dryness in the refrigerator is also gonna help to dry the outside of the steak so that it gives it a really good crust when we put it on the grill. So I've taken the steak out of the fridge and it's nice and dry on top, but if you still see some liquid on there, just blot it with some paper towels to dry it off. Now we're gonna cook this by a method known as reverse sear, which means we're gonna cook it in the oven first, and then we're gonna finish by searing it on the grill. To do so, you've got to regulate the temperature, which means you need a meat thermometer. Now this is a fancy one that's connected to my cell phone, but by all means, go to the grocery store. You can get one for $5 or $10, and it will guarantee you a perfect steak. Stick it here into the thickest part of the steak. And then to cook it to the temperature that you like, medium, medium well, whatever it is, go to our website. I've got all the information on the proper temperatures. But what you're gonna do is take it out of the oven when it's 25 degrees from being done. So I like a 140 steak. We're gonna take it out at 115. See what I did there? It's math. So while the steak is cooking in the oven, I turned up the stove to medium-high heat. We've got our cast iron grill pan on there. We're getting up to a screaming hot temperature so that we can sear that steak. Now, if you don't have a cast iron grill pan and you prefer to use your outdoor barbecue grill, by all means, do so. Now, right before it hits our target temperature, I'm gonna drizzle some avocado oil onto our cast iron grill pan. I am going to take it out of the oven, and we're gonna throw it right on our pan. Woohoo! Now, I'm gonna watch the thermometer. We're gonna watch it until the temperature goes up another 5 degrees, and then we're gonna give it a quarter turn. That'll give it those great steakhouse grill marks. We'll cook it for another 5 degrees on this side before we flip it over. Oh, look at that. Tell me that doesn't look like a steakhouse. Now we're gonna cook it for another 5 degrees. Give it a turn, another 5 degrees. We're actually gonna take it off about 5 degrees below where we want it to finish off, because that residual heat will continue to cook the steak and it will bring it to that perfect 140 degrees. 135, let's take it off. So I've taken it off of our grill. We're gonna let the steak rest for 10 minutes. This is very important. That'll give it time for those juices to redistribute throughout the meat. You don't have to slice into it to check that it's done because we got the thermometer. We know that it's gonna be perfect. So check this out, a feast fit for a king. Move over, fancy schmancy steakhouse. Let's cut into this thing. Oh, tell me that doesn't look perfect. Hey, go get the recipe for this. It's available on our website. You can also check us out at Facebook, Instagram, and Pinterest. And when you try this recipe, please let us know about it in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell. Until next time, I'm Fucci reminding you that if I can make the perfect steak in a kitchen this tiny, you can make it in yours. We'll see you next time on Tiny Kitchen, Big Taste. Let the feast begin. So we've taken our refrigerator out of the steak. Oh my gosh. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna pull it together, Dwight.
All right.
So I've taken the fridge. Why do I keep saying this fridge?